I willed it into existence. So anybody who thinks that like you can't will something into happening, you can. But I think the real way you create diversity and inclusion is by going to the youth and exposing them to this. Somebody says something great to me one time: you can't be what you can't see. My vision is to create the industry's first flight desk powered by the neurodiverse community.
Welcome to the Future in Flight podcast, coming to you from a hangar somewhere near the flight line, where the FBO has that fancy infused water and a healthy assortment of tea bags. I'm your host, Shawn Staerker. You know, when most people think about aviation careers, they picture pilots, air traffic controllers, mechanics. But what if I told you there's a whole range of opportunities from the ground floor to flight level 400, and that we're leaving talent on the table by not opening these doors wider to those who qualify? Today, I'm talking with Antonio Ferrara, founder of Aviators for Autism and a special needs father on a mission. Antonio grew up as what he calls an aviation brat. His father's been flying for American Airlines for 38 years. Antonio's own journey took him through aircraft detailing, ground operations, and 11 years at Talon Air before starting his own charter brokerage. Now he's combining his professional expertise with personal passion to bridge two critical gaps, helping neurodiverse families travel with confidence and connecting an underserved community with aviation's chronic workforce shortage. It's a conversation about inclusion, innovation, and seeing possibilities where others see limitations. We just got clearance. Let's go. So, how did your early exposure to aviation help shape your career?
For me, yeah, I was born in it. So, my father, he's just turned 60 this year, and I believe he's 38 years now at American Airlines flying. So he's still got a ways to go, right? So for me, I was kind of, lack of a better word, an aviation brat growing up. An unaccompanied minor flying to and from Texas to New York to visit family, and just always being around it. My father had small planes. He's also an AP and an IA. So it just, it was something I was always drawn to. And I actually didn't even, get into aviation as a career right away. I kind of stayed, even though I had a passion and was always looking in the sky and always obsessed and had tons of knowledge in aviation. And this is like nothing against my father, right? But he wasn't around too much. He was a pilot, right? When I was a kid. So like at a younger age, I was like, man, I don't want to be a pilot, and to most people, it's like pilots, ATC, and like mechanics. It's like the only thing anybody sees in aviation. So for me, I was like, well, that's not what I want, necessarily. But I always had a passion. And it wasn't until, I started getting into like detailing and then got into aircraft detailing and, started getting around some of the executive airports and then taking a job in ground ops that I kind of was like, I think I realized that there's more than just the service level opportunities that people thought. So, for me, it was actually a longer road. And I think that road that I took, getting out of school, listen, I'm like the opposite. I got a GED when I was 17, right? Started working full time just as a, blue collar guy. I'm a list in all these different jobs. So then when it came time for me to get into aviation, and I was working on the ramp, like towing an airplane was like second nature because I was towing trailers and operate machinery, right? So I think the trajectory my life kind of took me on actually helped propel me a little bit faster. So when in my mid 20s, when I took a job as a line guy, and I was detailing aircraft with like my own little startup small business, my trajectory was just that was more of the people around me. I spent a life around aviation, the terminology. I knew how to explain what actually lift is and these different things, right? So I think I'm really beneficial that it worked out for me that way. I don't know what path I would have taken if I just came right out of high school and got into it. So I just think that's a perfect example of the opportunities that aviation has. It's not just pilots and ATCs. There's ground personnel, there's safety, there's law, there's engineering, data analytics, and just I always say there's a saying that I had that there's like a whole spectrum of jobs from the ground floor to 40 FL where a lot of this action happens. There's a whole bunch of things that if they weren't in place, the airplanes wouldn't be flying.
Absolutely. It is such an amazing industry with so many different jobs. It's great to have somebody advocating that there's nothing wrong with pilots, ground crew, and ATC. Love them, but there's so many more in the industry. Let's stay kind of back in the youth time frame and give us one of your favorite memories about aviation from your childhood.
Favorite. I mean, one of the memories that I've just have like the most of was going I grew up in Texas, in the Fort Worth area. My dad was based down there when he was flying. And we used to go to a lot of air shows because that's big down there. Here where I am on Long Island, we've got the Bethpage Air Show once a year. Maybe they come back around Labor Day. But in a place like Texas, there's no shortage of aviation. I mean, half the sectionals and stuff in the training manuals is like Oklahoma and Texas, right? Like when you're looking through there. So a lot of my earliest memories were of the air shows, and then just obviously being around planes with my father. And just enjoying some of that stuff.
It's always been there. It really is who you are. Now, how do you balance your professional commitments with business aviation and your advocacy work and family life? That's a lot to juggle there.
Yeah, what I think I found recently that helped me ever since I really started getting into advocacy, not just for aviation, but obviously for the autism community, is I kind of combined the two of them into one, right? So like I kind of blended my professional career into my advocacy, right? I'm a special needs father. And I really wanted to be able to support the special needs community through the industry that I know so well, right? So I kind of combined the two of those. And now I'm out working for myself. I was at Talon Air for 11 years. It would have been 11 years in August. I left just shy, like 1 month shy of 11 years. So many great opportunities and learning experiences I had there. Literally started as a line guy at Talon Air and went from line guy to training manager, writing the SOPs for the guys on the ramp, to then going into the corporate office. So as I transition now and I find myself having a little bit more time to myself, I've definitely tried to put that into the family and make sure I'm watering it there. But I think the easiest way I was able to kind of deal with it all was combine the two. And now my business, which is a charter brokerage, we're looking to support some of the missions within my nonprofit and the advocacy. The chaos of having a couple things going at once kind of like grounds me a little bit. And I have an amazing wife and family. I mean, she's very gracious and understands that private aviation, business aviation is a around the clock thing, especially when you're dealing with aircraft charter and consulting and sales and things of that nature. It's pretty on demand.
Absolutely, got to be there. Aviation, like New York, kind of just doesn't sleep. So
Yeah.
you mentioned being a special needs father. Tell us a little bit about how that inspired your work in both aviation and autism advocacy.
Yeah. Well, my son, Nicholas, he just turned 10 years old this past May. Nicholas came along right as I was starting my career at Talon Air, right? So as he grew up, he was always exposed, right? I was bringing him to where I worked. I was bringing him to Brookhaven Airport where dad's plane is. We were always traveling. So for us, it was very easy to travel and do a lot of things. I mean, I'm very fortunate. Nicholas you would consider him a non-speaker with like an apraxia diagnosis, which is a brain-body disconnect, fine motor skills. He can think it. Sometimes he just can't make the neurons fire for the body to do it, right? Very bright, can read and can write. But over the time of just traveling and educating myself more on the community and what other people are doing, I found out there was a big need for families and individuals to be educated in aviation, right? I came across a study in 2019 that 87% of families with individuals on the spectrum don't plan family vacations. So that's millions of people, millions of families. How do we figure out a way to help bridge that gap, break some of those barriers down? So that's kind of where the nonprofit and the advocacy kind of came from. Just wanted to create those opportunities. And then along the way, as I'm like, oh, this is really nice. We're supporting families. We're giving the parents, because at the end of the day, it's the parents, right? Little Jimmy doesn't decide to go down to Disney. Mom and dad have to have the courage and the skills and the confidence to take that trip. It's a lot of money. It's a big investment to not even be able to make it through the door of the airport. But as we were thinking about that, I'm like, what else can we do in aviation? And it was just staring at me right in the face as I was trying to find employees at my own department in Talon Air to come and clean airplanes for us. Like, there's a constant workforce shortage in aviation. And that cemented more to me last week. Aviation Insider published an article, 1.5 million aviation employees by 2034. So like, if that doesn't cement that we have a constant need for the workforce, and then couple that with over 80% of individuals on the spectrum with a diagnosis, with a college or high school degree, are unemployed or underemployed. To me, it kind of felt full circle. Let's empower families to travel, and then let's open their eyes to employment opportunities that they wouldn't see. And along the way, I've found so many amazing high-level individuals that are diagnosed and open about it, already working in high-level positions in aviation. So I think I think that's kind of where that all started and how that all came together.
I love it. And you mentioned empower. It's such a great word, just a phenomenally rich word with good tones. And you couple it with two other words, which are really phenomenal in light of what you're doing here. You say you expose, educate, and empower the autism community through aviation. How do you define success for that mission?
Yeah, so it's both ways. I kind of always describe it as like a two-pronged approach, right? And the first, if you want to classify as a success, I think the first side of the mission, supporting families with travel needs and that, right? That's empowerment. That's really one. It definitely empowers the individual. I have yet to meet any of the individuals that have come to our events where we put them on aircraft and exposed them to this that didn't love it, one, and two, didn't already have a deep knowledge of it. I mean, I'm meeting like 17, 18-year-olds, 10-year-olds that have like more knowledge on certain things than me. And I've been in this like 15 years. And they're like, oh, it has this engine. And I'm like, all right, show off, and I'm just like, oh man, it's amazing. Right. So, but really it's empowering them, but it's empowering the parents. I talk to every parent at every event. And I'm like, this is really for you guys, for you to understand that this is all possible, that there's nothing to fear. And you have to at least give it a try. I hate the idea of mom and Cindy going to the cheerleading competition and dad and Philip are at home because they can't get them on the plane to go there, right? That should be family. So on that side, success is really just breaking down some of those barriers for entry to as a consumer for those families. And that's going to go from empowering the families and individuals, but also I think educating the carriers, the operators, and letting them identify that, listen, there's a underserved community. They're making changes and they're making strives to make it better, but there's tons of work to do. So I think that's what defines the success in there. And as far as the employment side, it's very, I think it's very nuanced, especially with, I guess, a lot of the division, I guess, around like buzzwords like inclusivity and different things, right? Like I think it's easy to lose certain people when you start talking about inclusivity, which is it's unfortunate. But to me, what a success in employment opportunities are is just access to the opportunity is everything. And I kind of brought it up before, but I think the real way you create diversity and inclusion is by going to the youth and exposing them to this, right? Somebody says something great to me one time. You can't be what you can't see, right? So if kids in the inner city or kids of a certain economic standing or of a neurological standing, like if they don't understand that this is available to them, they'll never make the strives or the attempts or create a passion to go for that, right? So I think, at the very least, the success on that side is opening everyone's eyes to create the ability for opportunity, but really they can fulfill a lot of these jobs. Lauren Thatcher, who's very outspoken, she's the head of all compliance for Draken EU. I don't know if you're familiar with Draken,
For sure.
right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
she's
you bet.
ADHD autistic and she's head of compliance in the EU, right? That's like a super, and she's young, she's bright, she's brilliant, she's awesome.
Love
But
it.
there's so many other individuals that can be like that. And I don't mean put my nonverbal son at the front desk at Southwest, right? No, it's my non-speaking son. That's not what I'm talking about. But we're talking about identifying some of those opportunities and creating them. And we've got some pretty cool and unique ways that we're going to be looking to do that at the very start with the nonprofit to hopefully build the roadmap for other companies to go, all right, look what they're doing. Come in and help us. We want to be a part of it.
I love it. We're not just putting the existing roads on that map, but you're even talking about making new roads and possibly creating new opportunities for these individuals. So that is attacking it from both areas is amazing. I heard you
Yeah.
mention about doing some airport tours. Now, how do you tailor airport tours to meet the sensory and emotional needs of somebody that's neurodiverse?
Yeah, so we've luckily had some great partners in creating these events, and we've been doing them at the 135s. So we're in smaller facilities, obviously 30 to 40,000 square foot hangars, corporate business jets. So the last two events we've done, we used a G5, so nice, nice wide body, 17 seat configuration. So it was actually nice. We can get a decent amount of people in there. So with partners like Talon Air and then Help Alliance came in, which Help Alliance, if you're not familiar, they are the nonprofit for Lufthansa Airlines. So they've came in and partnered and did an event. And really what we just try and do is make it as welcoming and as exciting for the family. So we have them come in, we give them a boarding pass, they walk through, and we have security. They actually get to go through a metal detector if they want and actually give up their item. We have a table, like, hey, you got a gym, you got to give up the bear. It's got to go through the machine, right? Because it's like a reality when you get there, and people don't even think of that, like the comfort item that they have to separate from to go through a machine and then have to walk through this big machine that's beeping and there's all these people. Just that in itself is like overstimulating. So we have them to be able to come through to do that. They build a passport, so it gets really interactive. We give them a blank passport. We take a picture. They put their picture in it. They've got country stamps, and they're stamping it all up. They're drawing. So then when we put them on the airplane in small groups, we have the airplane. We play a video on the airplane of takeoff and landing. I mean, these kids were coming off, and they're like, "I'm in Canada now." Like it was like really immersive. And we just created, we just did it in the hangar. We put it in a nice big open area so families can come in and they can sit down if they want and take a break, because it's hard to go from thing to thing sometimes, right? Especially with children, like in my son's community. So having tables from the sit down, settle in, healthy snacks there, whether it's like honest juices and stuff that just doesn't have a lot of processed sugar and stuff. I don't want to be feeding other people's kids junk, let alone mine. So we try and make them as healthy as possible. So and then everybody's been very accommodating. The one thing every parent said is everybody's been so patient and so kind. This has been so amazing. So it's been really great to do these with Talon Air and Help Alliance, and the goal is to do them all across the country. I've got strategic partners and people that are supporting the nonprofit all over the country, and I'd love to do one in Nashville and in Opelika and Dallas and wherever anybody is that wants to do it. I'd love to do these events.
Did you just say Opelika?
Yeah, I'll do it
Nice,
anywhere.
nice.
Yeah,
There it is.
yeah,
Yay.
I'll do it anywhere.
I love it, man. That used to be one of the airports we did touch and goes way back when, in the 80s and 90s. That's so funny, man. I
Yeah.
love hearing that. Yeah, this is needed everywhere. I mean, the more you talk, you just first of all, you're reading my script because you're hitting everything pretty much in sequence, which is phenomenal. And you're just bringing amazing energy. I really appreciate all the answers, the thoughtfulness that you're given.
This is how I usually lead with everybody and everything in this space. Like, if there's something that I can do to help support them, I'd love to. And then everything kind of happens organically, right? Like, I just want to meet other organizations and other people passionate about this community and this mission. And I feel like everything else kind of just sorts itself out. And I mean, the nonprofit's only been going for a little over a year, and we're making, tons of great progress. And, some of the things we're building now, like I don't want to wait for companies to buy in and say, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to hire them. I'm doing it myself and we're going to create it. I don't want, so I went out on my own. I don't want nobody to tell me I can't hire somebody that I want to. And so I'm really excited of what, the next year is going to bring.
Oh, I love it. There's so much talent in every community. So to be able to pick from that is great. I mean, it's only a benefit for the employer. So talk to me about some jobs that you see right now that could be available for some in this community, and maybe some that you could see on the horizon.
Yeah. Well, I think the one that always comes to mind is, especially in the office and in the corporate office, or potentially even remote, is obviously the analytical and the data roles, right? I think having people be able to sit down, be comfortable, be able to hyper focus on different tasks. I think that's a very good fit for them. Engineering, obviously, but they've got to be exposed to it, right? You can't just go up to somebody who's never had taken an interest in these things and be like, you're going to be an engineer now. No, but if we can get to them in high school and in grade school and set them on a passion and a path, right, that they'll become that. So I think those are obviously awesome ones, because I think it really just kind of sets in also on some of the skill sets of the community, whether it's being able to be hyper focused, the numbers, the analytics of the being able to extrapolate different things and receive data the way they do. And there's so many more. I know for me, so I'm doing two things that are going to be important for me to push forward for the jobs. So, I shared a little bit that I was into aircraft detailing. I had a small business detailing planes and jets and things of that nature. And one of the individuals that's now helping and supporting the nonprofit, he's coming on as a board member. He's from Morgan Stanley. Greg Chapman, he actually started his career as an aviation detailer too. And one of the things that I want to do is I reached out to Kevin Wargo at Fly Alliance. Well, actually, like I willed it into existence. So anybody who thinks that like you can't will something into happening, you can. I reached out to my buddy Joe Santo. I'm like, hey, you're a partner at Fly Alliance. Get me in touch with Kevin. He's like, all right, I'll try and get a hold of him. He couldn't get it. He was just busy, so I didn't want to keep bothering him, right? Reached out to Chris, his partner. Hey, Chris, get me in touch with Kevin. I want to chat with him about something. Chris was busy. The next week, Kevin walks into the office at Talon Air from Fly Alliance, and I just walk up to him in the office, and I'm like, hey, Kevin, it's Anthony Ferrara. He's like, why do I know your name? My sister actually did photos for him, right? So, like, I willed that. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, I willed that man into walking into the door. And I just like, listen, and I want to, put this in front of you. I want to, you scrap airplanes. I would love to get an aircraft fuselage so I can bring it to a training facility that does vocational training and teach this community on how to detail and clean aircraft. And we can even take it to a maintenance standpoint after that as well. But I think the easy thing would be detailing and cleaning, because there's hundreds of flight schools all over this country that you can get one or two guys in, because we all know flight school planes are always dirty. They don't take care of them, right? So you can pay somebody a reasonable rate, and they'll keep the airplanes. Because listen, they fly a lot. It's hard. It's not easy running a flight school. I'm not poo pooing them at all.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So that's, me and Greg are going to put our knowledge together, and we're going to take a fuselage from like Fly Alliance, and we're going to start putting those in training schools once we can build that out further, right? So I think that's an amazing thing, because that can go anywhere. I mean, that can be used in flight schools, 135s, 145s, detailers that do one in the 121 space, right? There's like so many jobs that we can fill there. And I think what I'm going to do personally with my company, so I left Talon Air and I started my own charter brokerage, so aircraft charter sales. And what we're going to do is I'm actually taking a page out of Apollo Jet's book, which is Talon Air's sister company, and they had a flight desk. And what the charter flight desk did is when an agent, a broker needed a trip and he didn't want to source it himself, he'd send it to the flight desk. The flight desk would reach out to the operators and get him the best options, put it all in an email, send it to him, he sends it to his client, and they get a little cut of the commission, plus they're on a salary. Well, my vision is to create the industry's first flight desk powered by the neurodiverse community. So I want to put the neurodiverse in these roles, because they're going to be behind a desk. They can do it remote, they can do it in the office when we have the physical space. And the agents, the brokers can just be like, here, Josh, I got a Teterboro to Palm Beach. Find me the best 5 options, send them over to me, and just create that roadmap. That can grow as the business grows, and I need more of those individuals. There's more, and then I can now go to companies and be like, look what we built here. You may not need trip sources, or maybe you do. We can help you with that, but look, this is how we can roll this into a different role, whether it's accounting, analytics, or anything else. So sorry, I'm passionate about this stuff. So I'll just you drop me in an elevator, and I'll take it to the top floor sometimes.
You got big buildings up there, man. That's a long elevator, right? Like here in
Yeah.
Florida, we got like 4 floors, man. We'd be done already. No, I love it. You're bringing that king energy, brother. You are a passionate advocate for what you're saying, and I love it, man. This is really in you, and this is good. So I'll get all the sound bites, or production will get all the sound bites out of it. Keep talking. You mentioned a lot of positives about employing somebody from the neurodiverse community. Are there any drawbacks that you could see, and what methods or systems or ways can be implemented to help kind of mitigate that or head that off?
Yeah. Well, listen, you'd be lying to yourself if you said there was no pros, cons, drawbacks, hurdles, or anything like that, right? You'd be lying to yourself, and you wouldn't be being transparent and honest. So I think there's hurdles and steps that you got to take, whether you're hiring a typical person or a neurotypical. But you're asking about neurotypical, so let's talk about that. I think the first thing, I guess if you want to call it a con, let's call it a con, but let's say it's a drawback, but in all things it's a net positive, right? The employer now has to educate themselves, right? They've got to put the time into educating themselves. You're going to probably interview these individuals a little bit different. You're probably going to have to make some changes within the office if it's an in-person job. You may have to put, whether it's a signage up or different things, right? There's going to be some, just surface level sensory things or awareness things that you may need to put in. And then from there, I think what's important is you're in this space. When it comes to accidents or safety or things not happening the way they're supposed to, or things not getting done, you usually put that on lack of following procedures a lot of the time, right? And it's a big complaint of a lot of employers. Nobody's following the workflow. Nobody's following the SOPs. I don't, what are we going to do? You give neurodiverse individuals an overview of their workflow and their responsibilities, and like, listen, from this time to this time, these are the things that you're doing. You're doing this from here. You're doing this from here. Here's lunch. These are your procedures. You do it X, Y, and Z. If it's never like this, we don't do it. You reach out to the supervisor, right? Like, it actually, one, will help the company build up a more robust procedures and processes and a more defined, and then it'll also allow them to follow that now, right? And I think the initial drawback, kind of, if you put in the effort and you're really honest and you really want it, it'll end up being a net benefit, right? So I think that's the first initial one. Two, some of these individuals, as high level as they are, they may get overloaded, and they may, have moments of stress, or something that could possibly, I'm honest, right? I'm going to be transparent as possible. Could also end up being a disruption, right? Maybe that means, like, if they get in their work done and they need to go take an hour in the vehicle to go reset, or you have a quiet room or whatever, right? I think, to me, it always comes back to, like, some of the drawbacks, when addressed the right way, actually maybe become better for the company as a whole, to all of their workforce, not just neurodiverse. Because when you're more aware, when you're more, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess aware. When you're just more aware of these different things, right? I think it just creates a more inclusive experience for everybody. It doesn't have to be the neurotypical or the neurodiverse, right?
Let's take a quick break from this great conversation to hear from one of our awesome sponsors. Here's something every pilot knows. Finding sunglasses that actually work with your headset is nearly impossible. That's why I'm super excited to tell you about Flight Sunglasses, our newest show supporter. Flight gets it. They're made by pilots for pilots using wafer-thin carbon fiber, the same material we trust to build our aircraft. No more broken headset seals, no more pressure points, just crystal clear vision and all-day comfort, whether you're in the cockpit or on the ground. Head over to flight.aero and join their mailing list for $20 off your first pair. That's FLYTE.aero. Sunglasses designed for pilots, worn by everyone. And now back to our conversation with Antonio Ferrara.
For sure. Right. I mean, like, I've lost it at work a few times where, I've spazzed out and gone, it just is what it is. These are all regular human things. And you're right. They don't have to be drawbacks. In some cases, you're bringing in a Ferrari, an absolutely specialized tool that is going to hyper-focus and bring great results. Ferrari it's not a pickup truck. You don't go to Home Depot with it. Learn your tool, develop your processes right. And I'm 100% with you that you're going to get amazing things out of these individuals. It's going to require looking in the mirror for a lot of employers, though, a lot of people, which is a roadblock in and of itself.
Yeah. And I'm actually, I found that thing has been very important for me, because, I hate, like, the buzzword, the culture buzzword, right? But as I've been looking and hiring charter brokers and different things for my company, like, that's like a serious thing to me. Like, if I'm looking at two people and one guy's like $5 million in business and he's a total, what, and there's somebody else who's young and hungry and has no business, and they get it and they love the idea of bringing in neurodiverse people to work, like, that's the person I want. I can't have the mother effing somebody on the spectrum because they didn't get his quote fast enough, right? Like, you really it helps you identify better people for your business too, because, like, you take that into consideration. Like, yeah, this guy could be good for the business, but is he good for the culture? Are they good for the full growth of the company?
Good for you, man. That's what's up right there. Also, protecting your employees from potential people like that says a lot about who you are as an employer. This is all awesome. So let's talk about something. You touched on it earlier, that inclusion and diversity, equity, a lot of these, it's gotten kind of a bad rap and whatever. The words themselves, the meanings themselves, there's nothing wrong with including more people. Talk to me a little bit about professional inclusion and how we can have a better workforce with, just different people.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I think the easiest thing to grab from that is, the more varying opinions you have, the more understanding of any given topic there's going to be, whether it's aviation or not, right? You're able to put some varying ideas, and everybody looks at things differently, right? I think for me, like you said, like, oh, that's, like, great to be thinking that as an employer. I guess I think like that because I've been an employee for so long, right? And I know what I don't like and how I don't like, in certain areas, how I was treated or the opportunities I wasn't afforded, in certain times. So I think a lot of it comes to that.
Talk a little bit about the importance of diversity and inclusion in the professional setting. Disregarding any of the negative talk, just speak to the positives about having a diverse workforce and including people that may be traditionally left out.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what it comes down to. If somebody would be traditionally left out, that they should have a seat at the table. If you're leaving somebody out of the conversation, there's a whole group of answers to the projects or the things that you're working on that you're excluding yourself from. And maybe you don't want to hear that. Maybe whether that's from somebody that's in a wheelchair and you're doing a construction project and they're like, why is Jimmy always got this thing? Well, because Jimmy's looking at it from a full consumer standpoint, that he's a consumer and he's in a wheelchair. Does that mean that he's got to go backwards up a set of stairs now, or he can't fit through the door? So I think just from a professional standpoint in the company, it's really beneficial for that. And then as like professional individuals, not exposing yourself to other people's ideas, other people's experiences in their lives. I think you're robbing yourself of the ability to show empathy and to different things, whether it be an issue in the workforce or an issue at home. I think if you kind of close those things off, you're robbing yourself of that.
100% agree. I like inclusion. I like to relate it to a plate, man. Put it all on there. I'm going to get a sample of all of that. It's always best to have more
Well, I think
people.
that's why you have to go to when they're young too, right? I think that it's probably what's pushed so many people to one side or the other of this debate is the hiring, right? When it gets into the hiring and we define hiring by, well, we need to hire this many people. If you go back to the starting line and you create passion and drive in a bunch of individuals, you don't have to worry about that when it gets to the hiring side, because it's all the work's already been done, and you're already going to have this higher influx of a diverse offering of individuals to select from cultural to talent to IQ to everything. So I think that's probably where a lot of it's gets tight, because it's now when nobody's ever done the work early on. I mean, a lot of people are too. A lot of these flight museums, Aviation, and everybody's trying to like get to the youth now, because that's where it starts. Great. There's plenty of pivoters in their 20s and 30s that are great, but like, what about when those pivoters are done in 20 years when they age out? So if you don't go back to the start, you're never going to correct, I think, the problem at the end of the finish line, where all the debate and the divide comes from.
I'm glad we went back to the start on that question because you absolutely nailed it, dude. You brought it around really full circle. So let's go on to innovations and industry trends. And
Okay.
you've spoken about sensory-friendly innovations like Emirates autism certification, neurodiverse focused seat covers, and some of the really cool improvements that people are willing to make. What other design changes could you see in relation to aircraft interiors that would make them a little bit more friendly to that community?
Yeah. So it's funny. This is something that I've definitely spoken about. I have a few friends that are interior designers for aircraft. Sarah Maspeth and Natalie Rodriguez are both good friends of mine. I've actually spoken with Natalie a good bit on this, because it was something that came up, and me and her contributed together for an interior expo that was happening over in Europe. Somebody reached out from like a news, and they're like, "We heard about your nonprofit. Would you like to?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to," but I wanted to bring another professional in that deals with textiles and stuff all day. And we've had a few different conversations, and I think probably one of the biggest things I think we've landed on is the lighting and the diffusers. 'Cause a lot of the planes now got LEDs. When you record on your phone with LED lights, everything's flickering on the video. A lot of neurodiverse individuals like that, they kind of, their senses kind of sense that, and it's very stimulating for them, the light, right? I think less than seat covers, I think maybe some of the fabrics and things like that could probably be a little better. But I think when it comes to the main thing, it's lighting. You can't do much about spacing, right? I get it. The 121s, you got to put as many bodies in the canoe as you can. But I think lighting is obviously a big thing. And listen, I've never even like verbalized this, and I just like kind of in my mind now, because I know a few people. There's probably no nuts on airplanes. You know how many people don't fly because of that? And you know how many individuals on the spectrum have a nut allergy? A lot of them. And like I'm sure you're not surprised of how many people would throw a hissy fit if you walked on a plane and was like, nobody have any Reese's peanut butter cups for the next 3 hours. Like people feel sorry, entitled. You know what I mean? Like, are you too entitled to like not eat peanut butter for 3 hours so somebody doesn't die potentially? And some of the carriers have made some changes to like combat that. Like you can like JetBlue, you can ask for like a buffer zone where they won't see like they'll tell like the 2 or 3 rows in front and behind you that they can't have peanuts, or whatever. But still, sometimes airborne's airborne,
Right.
right? So I think they're doing a good job. But once you're in the plane, it's tough. I think a lot of the innovation needs to come in form of airport environments and how the individuals are able to interact with them, whether it's through security, I think less than 20 airports in the country have sensory rooms. And how many regional international airports are there? There's dozens and dozens. I think creating the infrastructure for just getting in and getting through is going to do a world of help in breaking down barriers. It's tough from the airplane perspective, right? How much can we change in the plane to justify it to the operators too, right? Like we're not talking retrofitting one plane. We're talking about like it could be $500,000 times 50, right? So it's a big ask, right? So I think the easiest thing is to get the airports to kind of really break the walls down and make it more inviting and innovative there. I think that's one of the big ways.
Love that. That's a great start. Since we're talking about the future and technology, eVTOLs are kind of we're right on the cusp of seeing these sorts of things. Now,
Mhm.
that could be an opportunity for neurodivergent community members to find jobs in. Tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about where you see advanced air mobility and the neurodivergent community overlapping here.
Yeah, no, I love this, and I need to connect you with Liza because if you've got like more, if you want more on this, I'll connect you with her. She's a special needs mother. She's over in California, and she's worked in the eVTOL and the human factor space for like the past 15 plus years. So like
Wow.
she really gets it. So I'll make an intro. I think she would be really cool to talk to about this. But for me, I think you're spot on, and the one thing that I go to when I think of eVTOL is I think eventually like autonomous flight or even unmanned flight. A lot of these individuals could probably assist in some of that unmanned flight, right? Drone operators and some of those different things. But I think the ability one would assume, who knows, but right, one would assume the eVTOL would probably be separate from, like, they wouldn't be doing it in LaGuardia. It's just too busy, right? You go to like a seaport or somewhere because you got vertical lift, right? Why do we need to bring all these things in here making a mess at LaGuardia?
It's already
So
a mess.
yeah, it already is. So I think from a standpoint of like how it could benefit them, well, obviously we're talking about some jobs there. But if it's less of a lift for them to go to the airport and they're maybe going to traditional FBOs and still with a small security process like 380 compliant type stuff with the TSA, I think that's like a really great net benefit for them as far as getting exposed and having that available to them. Ooh, kicked it.
Awesome, good, great stuff on the horizon too. I've spoken with somebody, a couple people at Whisk, and that was kind of an impetus for this question. Is they're very open to that as well. So it seems to be like it's kind of growing. And then there's on the travel side of it internationally. I've seen that there are airport escorts for people on the spectrum or anybody that really needs that type of service. Do you see that taking hold here?
I think it needs to. It's like, so you've kind of gotten to know me a little bit right now. I have like ADD, I've said it already. So like my mind, I see all these cool things and I'm like, ooh, I want that new and shiny. Let's run and let's figure that out, right? But that early on, that was like one of my biggest things is I'm sitting in the airport and I'm watching Prospect wheel somebody by in a wheelchair. And I'm like, why aren't they doing that for autism, individuals or neurodiverse families? Like, why? And there is TSA Cares where they meet you, but it's TSA Cares, and how much infrastructure can TSA support 40, 50 people a day coming? Probably not, right? So I think it's a really untapped market, and that's something that's been on my roadmap of how do I get to Prospect and some of these other companies and say, hey, listen, let us help come in and create some of the roadmap to educate your workforce. We'll get them certified through some of the different certifications. We'll work together to create how this works. And then you offer this to individuals that are coming here. The same thing that you do for an old person in a wheelchair or a handicapped person. you could do for an autism family. You can meet them, you can walk them through, go to the toy store, go to the restaurant, hang out at the terminal, then they get on the terminal and then they depart and then they're met on the same side and do it. And like one thing that's been coming to my mind is I've been building a relationship with Islip here at MacArthur Airport. So I'm like, maybe we can, build out a pilot where it happens in Islip. That's a small airport. And then obviously most people leave in Islip if they're going to Florida, maybe they're going to Orlando MCO, right? So maybe we can do just like a 2 location thing to like build it out and grow it. Just I can only do so much. It's tough like where you decide to put it into, but I think and that's something that I was brought up to me. I didn't even know that that was available to them in Europe. Like you call up and ask for an escort, they got to give you one. And when I found that out, I'm like, of course, like we wouldn't have that yet.
Right. Yeah. No, why would we? Gosh.
Yeah,
We're trampling over old ladies sometimes to get on our flight. I'm
it's
looking at you,
crazy.
Southwest. But yeah, right. No, this is something that is just needed. And to speak to your point about the airport, if we have these individuals that are getting what they need in terms of the expectations and the calming environment before they get on the plane, well, it seems like it solves at least a part of a problem that could potentially be there. If they're going to get
Yeah.
met when they are off the plane, there is that as well. It just a These things are no-brainers. If you're at MCO, you got a lot of good sponsors that could probably get in on that. Matt Morgan lives in Orlando, by the way.
Yeah, well, I'd love to. I'd love to get connected there. You mentioned that. I'd love to be introduced to him because they just put in a sensory room last year in MCO. I didn't even know about it. I fly into MCO like every couple months, and I didn't even know they put one in there. But yeah,
Hmm.
anytime you can think of anybody, I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody about this. You see how passionate I am. I try and use as much riz and charisma to get everybody to come on board and help us and help. I want to help them. I think it's no. I can't do this on my own. There's other organizations doing this. There's Autism Double Checked, and there's other things out there, and that's I love that. Me and Alan Day over at Autism Double Check, we're trying to do some things together because we all know that it's going to take an army and it's going to take a long time, and the numbers keep going up, so the problem's not going away, and we just got to address it head on.
Love it. This is inclusion that we're talking about. Everybody getting together and helping get this solution met. Now, let's talk a little
Right.
bit about your personal advocacy and tell me kind of how you support fathers who may feel overlooked in the broader autism conversation.
Yeah, so I appreciate you bringing this up because it's actually something that I've been putting a lot of energy into, and I gotta keep going because I told myself I wanted to have 100 dads in the group before the end of the year, and we're close. I'm thinking I'm at 75. But I started a WhatsApp group for special needs dads because I've dealt with some of these same things as well. But most dudes like suffer in silence, right? As it is. Like they're not gonna be willing to say I'm stressed out, even to their own wife or their significant other, their brothers, their sisters. Like they just suffer in silence. And then you take the special needs aspect of being a special needs parent. Long days sometimes. And I don't say this in a bad way, but you don't get the same gratification you do from your typical kids, right? And it's tough, and there's a lot of stress, and I think over 80% of families with kids on the spectrum like end in divorce, right? So it's not an easy road for anybody. And so I just want to kind of create a place for the dads to just be able to talk, share stories, wins, losses. It's not all about like how great your life is. Like everybody, no, I don't care how you are. I mean, look, Jeffrey Lurie, look at all he's doing with the autism community, right? He's got to deal with a sibling that's on the spectrum, and he realizes how severe it is. So he's just spending $50 million of his own money into the community for causes, right? So we all need support. We all need help. So that's really been something I've been, passionate about. Just letting dudes know, like, it's all right. Like, if you need help, you can ask for help. It's better than just ignoring it and trying to figure it out yourself, especially if you're not doing anything to address it. If you're just kind of in a perpetual cycle of whether it's self-destruction or depression or what it is.
If somebody is listening to this, if there's a parent that hears this and a dad wants to reach out and maybe join that WhatsApp group, what is the method for that?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'll probably link like my LinkedIn or anything like that on here afterwards. We can like link my socials. I'll also, you can just reach out to me via email, and it's invite only. I keep it very close to the chest. I've literally got like 500 requests in there, and they're not from regular people. They're all from like bots I got to go through every day and delete them. There's no sales, there's no gurus, there's no coaching. It's just like dad. So reach out to me, Antonio at aviatorsforautism.org. And that's the word for FOR, aviatorsforautism.org. Ask me for the link for the WhatsApp group, and I just tell everybody, have a picture, put your name on there, so I know you're not a box. I just want to protect the integrity of the group. Hopefully before the end of the year, we may try and plan a get together. We've got a lot of dads in New York, a lot in Miami, and in Florida, and Texas. One guy just moved over from Europe. So it's a nice mix of people from everywhere. So we'd just love to have you in there. Share your stories, your wins, your losses, any advice. There's literally people asking questions every day, just for what works for other people, because what worked for one won't work for everybody. But you can never have too much support or information. Sometimes dads just reach out and they're like, "It's been a rough week, da 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 da," and everybody's there just to kind of support and try and change mindset. Right? It's easy to get upset, but we gotta work to just consolidate that, file it back, address it, and move forward. Otherwise, it's just going to repeat itself.
Absolutely. Now, looking at the broader organization, Aviators for Autism, if somebody wants to get involved there, how can they support?
Yeah, well, obviously, volunteering is a great way to support. So if you're in the New York area, for sure, obviously, we're throwing events as regular as we can here. If you're passionate and you're in a different state, please reach out to us at the same as the website, aviatorsforautism.org. There is a volunteer link. If you're an aviation professional and you have resources and you want to support us via hosting events, or maybe you have people in your network that have airplanes and you're like, hey, we can do a flight, things like that, right? Just bringing the community together. And then obviously we are 501c3 pending since 2024, so we're just waiting for the final approval. Obviously, donations are always greatly accepted and appreciated. It's really, I love lived experiences. If you're a parent in aviation, that's like a double whammy to me. Like, come reach out. Or if you're a sibling of somebody in aviation, great. But you don't have to be. There's people that know nothing about aviation that are supporting us. It's just all about passion and advocacy.
Come on, man. It's all about supporting people who have that passion, and you don't even have to be in aviation. That's what's great about this community. No gatekeeping here. Come on in. If you're cool, we like you. If you're not so cool, we might not talk to you so much. But I want you to talk to two particular people right now, two particular groups. The first one I'd like you to talk to is that younger individual who may be on the spectrum, who has a diagnosis and is looking at career possibilities in aviation. Give them a little bit of message right now.
Yeah. I mean, so what I would say to specifically anybody in the youth that's dealing with a diagnosis or their own neurodiverse difficulties is every opportunity that's afforded to everybody else is afforded to you. You're only bound by whatever the limits you put on yourself. There's plenty of individuals in this industry that'll give you mentorship, guidance, and assist you along the way if aviation's something that you want to do. Don't let the fact that you have a diagnosis discourage you. There's so many different avenues. I always refer to aviation as a spectrum, just like I do the autism spectrum, right? We kind of highlighted it before. There's like 100 jobs from the ground floor to 40 FL. So there's opportunity there. What that opportunity is, it's different for everybody. It could be on the ground side of things. It could be in safety, in tax, in law, in data, in engineering, in sales, in detailing, right? And we're still at service level. There's so much opportunity there. Just find something that speaks to you, that you're passionate about in this aviation, and run with it and look for mentors along the way. Tell everybody I'm always available. Reach out to me on my LinkedIn if you ever have any questions or want any guidance. I'm busy like everybody else, but I always try and make time to at least answer some of those questions for people and offer any advice or support I can, almost to a fault.
Beautiful. Now, the second group of people I want you to talk to are the parents. So use your experience as a special needs dad and give them a little bit of hope and inspiration on the subject of maybe that family vacation. Okay, we're talking to parents who might be a little bit leery about taking their whole family on a vacation, as you mentioned. Pour a little bit of hope, strength, and compassion into them.
Yeah. Well, what I would definitely say to the parents that are, whether they're in the various stages, whether they're trying to plan, whether they've already paid and planned for it and they're getting ready to go, at the end of the day, this first one's to mother and father, mother, father, no distinct, right? If I forget somebody, please don't for it. But same team, right? Same team. Regardless of what happens, throughout that experience, you two are on the same team, and nobody else there understands and knows what you're dealing with but you. So regardless of however stressful it gets, just remember, same team. And if that means like you've got to say that out loud, same team, you can say that. If it means taking breaks, right? So that's just the first thing, right? When you're there, you're there. We got to make the best of it and just be on the same team. For those that aren't even to that spot yet, because we tried to take Jimmy to the mall last week and it didn't even work out there, so we're not going to try it. I would say don't give up hope. I would say reach out to an organization like us, even if you're in a different state. Let's see if we can help support you. Maybe that means maybe that support is just something as basic as you're in North Carolina and I call somebody at like one of the North Carolina operators and like, hey, can a family come in? You guys just tour them around, maybe bring them on an airplane or two just to see how the kid acts. I'd love to try and help and support like that. There are professionals. I would look at the I'm gonna butcher it. I always do. I think it's ICBB or IBCSS, the autism certification. I forget the credential. It's an acronym, and I always forget it. If parents do go on ICBBES's website, there is a whole autism traveling aspect to it. So all the businesses and vendors that have signed on to do autism training, whether it's a hotel or an airline or restaurants or those different things, I would definitely say if you're planning, over plan, right? Bring your kids snacks. I mean, we just went to Jamaica. We had 2 carry-ons full of Nicholas's snacks, right? Because he only eats certain things, and we're going to another country, right? Prepare your snacks. Think about the places where you're going to be staying, where you're going to be going, where you're going to be eating. Like over plan. I don't even remember the saying, but if fail to plan to fail, right? Is that how it goes?
Absolutely.
So I think that's the most important thing. And then, just TSA Cares, it is a great tool. I would say stay away from some of the codes on your tickets. Those can be tricky. We just flew on American and we put the code for a special needs assistant, and it was the worst experience ever. You can't even check in online. You have to check in person. So like when I'm trying to expedite the process, now I've got to wait in these lines. My kid's there, he's stemming, people are staring at us. I don't care about that stuff anyway. It's like this was supposed to be easier for us,
Right.
not harder. And then we couldn't even change it. We had to do it on the back end. They're like, well, just book it as normal. And then when you come in, change it. I'm like, again, that doesn't help, right? So I would stay away from some of the codes. TSA Cares is great because I think TSA Cares, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think you can even go ahead of time before your flight because they already have your flight information and your name and background checked you. I think you can even go before the flight and kind of check it out and do it as well with TSA Care. So TSA Cares is a great resource and it's the only one. And I think that's why there needs to be something other than the TSA supporting that, whether it's an organization like us coming in and helping TSA Cares grow it, or whether it's a lot. Right? There's a lot of politics and goes into getting bonded and certified. And, even my dad, who's a pilot, can't just go to Newark to get lunch from Shake Shack because he wants to. You got to be there for a reason.
Yeah, that's the hurdles are something. Great mission though, and I think there's a lot of great heroes on your side that can put this into effect. You certainly chief among them as heroes. You've done a great job, Antonio. You have greased this whole interview. We have 3 questions left. It's the lightning round, and they're all fun. Nothing heavy here. Okay. Are you game?
Yeah, I'm always game.
Awesome. That's what's up. Oh, you're talking about born ready. Okay, I got you. You've spent a lot of time. You mentioned some unaccompanied flights. You're no stranger to commercial aviation. You're no stranger to getting up in the air. You got to get hungry up there. Eating is one of my favorite things, so I always like to ask somebody, what's your favorite in-flight snack?
My favorite in-flight snack? Pistachios and beef jerky.
I like it. That's simple, filling. Yeah. This is good here. You can tell a lot
somewhat
about
healthy
from their snacks. Somewhat healthy. Yes. I'll take it.
Somewhat healthy. I mean, pistachios are pretty healthy. They could be fat heavy, but yeah, pistachios and beef jerky are my go-to.
That's all right. We're a couple of svelte guys. We can handle it. Yeah. All right. So we've got our beef jerky and our pistachios. Now we got to have an airplane. If you could fly anything throughout time, what would you fly or ride on?
I don't know, man. I'm like an '80s baby. I grew up on Top Gun and Iron Eagle, so I think an F-16 for sure. Even though that's just risk in itself getting in that dang thing.
Now it's even worse.
Yeah, made probably the F-16. I've been on a few of the business jets, and they ain't all cracked up to be. I've been on the, I took a G5 from Teterboro to Boston, or from here to here local with the company, just like moving on the planes. And They ain't all that, man. They're lighter than the big ones, so they move around a lot more, you know. Yeah, I think the F-16 is it for me.
There it is. I love it, man. And the beef jerky and pistachios, that's a small footprint, so we can take them with us. Now,
Yeah.
we got to get a training model. We need an extra seat. If you could take anybody flying, if you could fly with anybody that's ever existed, who would you go with?
Man, anyone that's ever existed. Probably Howard Hughes.
Wow, genius.
Neurodiverse,
For
pilot,
sure.
inventor, creator. Yeah. I think that's probably the guy I'd ask to fly with.
Yeah, that's got to be a long flight. Bring extra beef jerky. You got to. There's no way you're going to cut off a conversation with Howard Hughes, and that's going to be a rich one. So good
No
man.
experimentals, though. No experimentals.
Hey, watch this. No.
No.
Thanks so much for listening to this great interview. Antonio Ferrara reminded us today that aviation isn't just about who's flying the plane. It's about everyone who makes flight possible. From data analysts to aircraft detailers, from flight desk coordinators to engineers, there's room for different minds, different abilities, and different perspectives. If Antonio's work resonates with you, you can find Aviators for Autism at aviatorsforautism.org. And dads, if you need support, Antonio's building a community. Reach out. Before you taxi back to your day, I have a favor to ask. If you found value in this conversation, please subscribe to the Future in Flight podcast wherever you get your on-demand audio. And if you have a moment, leave us a review. It helps other aviation enthusiasts and advocates find these stories. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon and your mind open to possibility. We'll see you out there and up there.